How's everyone doing? Welcome to the United Stand. My name is 72K and I'm super excited to be here. I'm super excited because we're back, right? The season started. We are all back with the fan forum, and what a fun forum to return with, because the result was absolutely brilliant. You know, I think coming into the season, there's so much nerves. You look at 12 months ago, how we started off, the loss against Crystal Palace, it just wasn't what we wanted. To come in this season and to start that way, the Varane announcement at the start as well, we'll talk about the Varane announcement plenty. Oh, it looks like we've lost Jay, but don't worry, I'm sure we'll be back. Look, I'm ecstatic. There's so much to talk about the game as well. Guys, I just want to know, you know, your initial reactions, how you're feeling about it. Jordan, you know, I talked to you a bit. It's brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah, do you know what? Like you said, we're not just back. We're back. We're back. Things you love to see. Full Old Trafford, the roar, the excitement. Mason Greenwood in the number 9. It was a beautiful thing to see. Really beautiful. I think there was a lot of uproar before the game about the team selection, and to be honest, I wasn't really surprised. I thought what Ollie did was exactly what he was going to do. I think McTominay's best game in the United shirt last season was against Leeds, so there's no way I thought that he was going to drop in, regardless of what's happened pre-season. Matic, as we know, just isn't mobile enough to get around that midfield for 90 minutes. They would have found him out, and against I thought, Leeds. Yeah, against Leeds. I just thought it was right. It's one of those things, you live by the sword, you die by it. If he'd made that decision and got it wrong, he would have got pelters, and Ollie out would have been trending all night. But he didn't. He got it right. So everyone's got to give him a round of applause and say, look, he's nailed it.
And that's brilliant, because, you know, I sort of came in and I was telling people to relax when I saw the team sheet, right? I was telling people to relax, and I went into Mark's watch along, and imagine telling all the 20,000 people, yo, relax, when they're all screaming Ollie out loud. I was just like, relax. But I did say as well, right? It was one of those things where, even though I can rationalize the selections, if it doesn't work, of course you're going to complain. But it did work. Alex, what did you make of the game today? It's good to be back, right?
So good to be back. I was one of the people when the team sheet came out being like, oh God, Lord give me strength for another season of McFred. But then at half time, I had to correct myself. I'm like, credit where it's due. I thought McTominay was brilliant again in that, especially in that first half. It was just so good to be back. My heart dropped when we conceded the goal, because I thought we were by far the better team in the first half. And I think one thing that actually stood out as well is that last season, we quite often were only good for like one half. But then we were really good in the first half. Okay, we had a little dip for 5 minutes in the second half, but then we absolutely blew them away for the rest of the second half. So I thought overall it was an absolutely brilliant performance. Bruno, obviously, with the hat-trick. Mason played brilliant. And then Pogba with 4 assists as well. Is like, to get 4 assists and still not get man of the match, it's quite gut-wrenching.
That's how you know. You know it was a good match. You know it was a good match when that happens. And honestly, you know, to think that he just got more assists in that one game than he did all of last season, crazy, by the way. Jay, we finally got you here now. Is it enough to put a smile on your face? I know it's just the one game, but it's enough to keep you happy for today.
Yeah, I'm happy for today, but let's be fair, Levin, and everybody watching, we've still got 37 games to go. Obviously, Twitter melted down before the game when it became knowledge that McFred were going to start, and I tweeted out very simply, clearly Solskjaer knows something that we don't, get behind the team. And let's be fair, lightning doesn't strike twice, but Solskjaer today felt it would. 5-1 vis-a-vis 6-2, so we almost got to 6. And you know it's gone tits up for Leeds when Fred scores. I didn't know Fred had a first-time shot in his locker. Pogba did okay today, did he not? 4 assists.
Yeah, not
a bad performance. But as my man Roy Keane would say, he was just doing his job. But I digress. Great performance there with Paul Pogba. And it just shows what Pogba can do when he's afforded time and space. I don't think he's going to be afforded that much time and space again for the remainder of the season. I was surprised he started, but clearly, listen, guys, we got to give props to Solskjaer today. He was slagged off for the game, but as I said in my intro, he saw what we see. McTominay played well, I thought. Fred, I thought first half he was missing in action, but I want to talk a little bit later on, guys, about Mason Greenwood. I know the products are going to go to Pogba and Bruno, but I thought Mason Greenwood today was immense. His movement off the ball, and if you saw his movement every time he made a run for a through ball, 2 Leeds defenders were going with him, and that created even more space for Pogba and Bruno. So Mason Greenwood today, for me was the first half man of the match, but obviously Bruno and Pogba get the props, and rightly so.
Yeah. Sorry, I was just going to say, Jay, just before you went, I said it was amazing seeing him in that number 9 role, and I think that movement was something I picked up on, and that it seems to be something he's picked up off of Cavani, because that wasn't something he was doing before. But that dragging of defenders, pulling them all over the pitch, giving defenders a headache for 90 minutes, that's definitely something he's picked up with Cavani. I don't know what you guys think.
No, 100%. And it's like, that's exactly what you get when you're playing Leeds, right? Because they do play that man-mark system, and they play it like they follow it. It's like so religious for them, where they will just, you know, do it till their death, right? We saw today. And it's why it was just so good, because in every single goal scoring opportunity, you could literally just, it was so easy to analyze. You could see where players are just being dragged so far out of position. And it's like, we have the talent to exploit that space. It's right. You're right in saying that, Jay, where, you know, in theory, this is probably the game where Pogba is going to get more space than he will in any other game this season, because there is just so much space created by Greenwood making brilliant runs. Even as much as I don't think Dan James had a good game, he would make those runs to, you know, create space for people. I think the key now is, you know, like we sort of all know, it is just Leeds. When you approach Leeds, it's almost like a sort of one-off, right? You know, tactically you're going to, you know, play to beat them. It's not necessarily going to be this sort of football every single week now. It's about finding that consistency. But, you know, I think we've got a great foundation to build off of. You know, we have the confidence of Greenwood playing up at number 9. You know, what happens with Pogba now? Do you know, obviously I think he'll be able to play off the left for quite a bit, because obviously Rashford's out, but how do you sort of balance the squad now in that sense, Alex? Like,
but Willie, that's what I was just going to jump in and say, because I put a tweet out saying now we have sort of a big conundrum coming, because Pogba obviously just got 4 assists today, but now you have to fit Pogba and Bruno into the same team. But okay, Ollie had a little bit of a buyout today because Sancho could be on the bench, but then when Cavani's coming back in, Mason's playing that well, Martial's going to be pushing for a start, we're going to really have to move Pogba back to midfield. So then they're saying, obviously all these rumours are that we're going to swap to 4-3-3 this season. I didn't really think we were as much. Okay, we pushed on a little bit forward with Pogba, with Fred today. But I think when Varane comes into the team, we are going to be more of an established 4-3-3. So then Pogba will be a part of that 4-3-3. Bruno will be. But then it's who's going to be that third person. Obviously, it doesn't look like we're going to sign a holding midfielder. So I don't know what you guys think, but what we're going to do now with that thing, because especially when Pogba's playing this well now, all his hands are tied. He can't play McFred, really, can he?
Yeah, and I think, you know what I'd say to that? I think you can probably get away with playing Matic in a lot of games in that position. I think what people need to remember is that your starting shape and how you actually build up is always going to be different, right? Just because you start in a 4-2-3-1 or 4-3-3 doesn't mean you'll build up that way. When you watch Pogba a lot of this game, you know, he was in that sort of left half space and central a lot of the game. A lot of his best moments came playing a bit centrally, a lot more advanced as well at certain points. It's like, you can definitely play him as a number 8 and give him that freedom. And it's why, like, I think people have been constantly going on about giving him that, you know, less defensive responsibility when going back. Because I think when he has less defensive responsibility, when he feels he can just roam forward and be involved in the play like that, you know, you get games like this where he just looks on a different level to anyone. It was outrageous.
Alex, on that point, you're right. But this is where having the squad and Ollie being able to make the right decisions for the right games come into it. You know, today it was right what he did. It's proven that it was right to play McFred. They cemented the midfield for us. They gave us the legs. That was perfect. But you're right. In other games, that isn't going to be right. But what we don't want is 38 games of McFred. He's got to make the right decisions. I thought it was an amazing thing to see the double substitution of Martial and Sancho coming on. I mean, when was the last time we were able to look at the bench and see those kind of options? Like that for me was vintage United. I looked at that and was like buzzing that was happening. Also, guys, Pogba, how happy did he look celebrating those goals, hugging Sancho on the touchline and everybody gathering around him and whatnot? Like that to me looks like a player that wants to stay. That doesn't look to me like a player that's just playing, you know, just going through the motions and waiting to run out of his contract. Like, I really, really hope we just get this sorted and this is him going forward.
Signing Varane as well, I think, massively helps with Pogba's happiness. It's like someone that he's obviously really close with on the French team. But what do you guys think about, with regards to that 4-3-3, about Matic? Like, I feel like when he actually plays to his best, which obviously But people say now about his age, but do you not remember back in 2013 with Carrick? I swear Carrick was older than Matic is now. So like people say about like managing his games, and obviously every player is different. But I feel like if we can get Matic back to anywhere close to his best, I feel like he is just levels above all our other midfielders that we can play in that position, just purely because, number one, he doesn't need to do all like the slide tackles and everything. He's like a Carrick in that regard, how he just anticipates the danger. And then number two, his passing range compared to McTominay and Fred, I think, is just on a different level. What do you guys think?
Alex, that's a great point that you just made there. I saw Carrick up close, live, maybe 6 times, and I don't think I ever saw Carrick make a sliding tackle, because Carrick could read the game so well, coupled with his visual sense. He didn't have to make a slide tackle. And I agree. I think everyone agrees Matic is our best CDM at the club. I don't see how he can play one game a week. He's no longer playing for Serbia international football, so surely he can play one game a week. And also, back to today, once Lindelof was playing, I think Solskjaer was almost going to start with McFred against we thought we were going to see a flamboyant Leeds team. We did for the first half an hour, and I think after about half an hour, Leeds went into a shell. Obviously, when Ailey got the equaliser, Leeds came back at us. But for the most part, I know possession-wise 50-50, but I thought today, McTominay, give him credit, he did well in that midfield. So going forward, if we're going to go to a 4-3-3, post-lockdown, when I think we were like 5th or 6th place, I think we were going to get top 4. And that midfield 3 was Pogba, Matic, and Fernandes. And I don't see why that can't be employed again.
I think it definitely can, and I think it's probably something we will see. Genuinely, I do believe there's more of a chance we see Matic regularly. I think you look at last season. Obviously, we didn't have much of a preseason. It was always going to be hard to sort of integrate him and get him up to match sharpness during the season. But he's had a good preseason. I think we will see more of Matic, especially in that sort of more of a holding midfield role. But to focus on the players that did play, we're talking about the midfield, right? I do think you've got to give credit to McTominay for playing. He's not always going to be someone who comes out and performs well, but I think he did a great job. Beyond even when people were thinking, why is McTominay and Fred starting? Like, there was one thing that I was thinking about as well. I was thinking about aerially, right? If McTominay was on the pitch, we didn't look amazing from set pieces, right? And obviously, still the first game we'll see what Eric Ramsey's doing, over the course of the season. But without McTominay, aerially, it would have been much scarier for us, right? Because you would have only had really Maguire, who's a really good aerial threat. And I did notice on the set pieces in the first half that McTominay was always sort of staying on the shoulder of Pogba. Like, it looked like there was something that they were trying to do. It didn't work out, and so hopefully we get to see more of that moving forward. But look, I don't know what we actually will do in the midfield in terms of maybe playing a free, maybe playing a pivot. All I know is that when we have Pogba and Bruno linking up in that area, it's just going to be good. It's going to be scary for whoever it is we're playing. And so that has to be the priority to me.
Yeah. Right. Whose dog needs feeding?
The dog's excited as well. The dog's excited. I can't blame him.
Just hold one moment. I'll sort that dog out. Give me 2 seconds. My apologies, guys.
Jay's about to sort that. Jay's about to sort that dog out.
Jay, don't put the dog down. Don't put the dog down.
Jay, show mercy.
Don't
do it.
More dog.
One point I want to make about Bruno is how good did Bruno look after the rest and him being fresh? Like, frightening. And I think that's one thing we need to take on, again, going back to the whole squad rotation thing, is let's not run Bruno into the ground this season. Let's give him rest when we need to give him rest, because a fresh Bruno is frightening in this league.
When Bruno got injured
before halftime, before full time, saying if you were Portuguese right now, seeing how they played Euros and then how little you used Bruno, and when you did use him, whereabouts you used him, how much you just must be face palming right now, being like, if we actually played to his strengths, how much better we could have been. Because when he is on his game, he is absolutely unplayable.
There's literally nobody like Bruno in the league. When it comes to number 10s, I saw a stat last season that in terms of number 10s in the Premier League that played more than 900 minutes, it was like Bruno was one of the only notable names, right? Like he is just on a different level there. And you know, I was just gonna say, like, when Rafinha clipped him a little bit and he went down, you see the way my heart dropped, yeah? Jesus Christ. I was like, yo, to the point where I was even thinking, you know what, Ollie, you know, we're up so much, you know, just take Bruno off, please. Just to you know, we could protect our prized asset. You know what I mean? You took Pogba off, I was thinking, please, just do the same with Bruno. But he stayed on it, and that's what he'll do. He will just play every minute of every game. But, you know, once again, I do agree with you, Jordan. We have to manage him better because, you know, he needed a rest, quite clearly. He needed a rest. And more so than the rest, one thing that I think is so huge is just, you know, having fans back in OT, like, the boost it gives, right? Like, we weren't amazing at home last season, much better way than we were at home. But, you know, I can almost see that sort of changing where this season, I just think we're going to be so strong. The fans were really on it from moment one. And, you know, we'll talk about that more. And obviously, I think that was helped by the Varane announcement. But for all those players, like, even especially the new ones like Sancho, Varane would have been watching, players who are sort of coming back into things, players who maybe have missed that feeling like a Bruno or Pogba, like, to have all those fans behind you, it really was something that, you know, you can't explain. You just, it's a feeling that you can't explain. I hope I get to go there sometime soon. But moving forward, right? Moving forward, because I think we've obviously talked about, you know, a lot of the attacking play, you know, a lot of the midfield. Defensively, right? You know, I think there wasn't much for them to do, to be fair. But wan-bissaka, he did look a lot more, you know, solid with his passing in the first half. It wasn't anything phenomenal, but I think he was getting more involved in the play. He was going forward a bit more throughout the game as well. Luke Shaw going forward, you know, was, you know, it didn't materialize into any sort of goal contribution, but, you know, he did look like he was very involved. I think you look at our fullbacks, they look like they're ready to have a good season as well.
Yeah, they do. And I think, again, you know, I think we've said it, that the reason he went with McFred was to protect them, and hopefully with Varane he feels a lot more confident to free up one of those midfield positions. I think it was in the 8th minute, McTominay absolutely bailed Lindelof out of a header coming across, and we would run a whole world of trouble. But yeah, I think Varane coming in, hopefully that partnership with him and Maguire frees up a position in midfield. We can move Pogba into and be just a little bit more attacking, that little bit more dangerous. Because let's be honest, we're not going to play a Leeds every week. We're not going to play a team as open as that, and we know we struggle against the low block. I think it's amazing. It's first game of the season, but, you know, we do need to sort of just remember there's another 37 games to come. We absolutely rolled Leeds over last season, so that isn't a surprise. It's how we deal with the next 5-6 games to really build up some momentum.
So I want to know from you guys then, in terms of the lineup from today to next week, I want to know each one of you, what do you sort of change going into that game against Southampton? I'll start with you, Joe.
Okay, I think Southampton, we know what we're going to get. They sit back deep in 2 banks of 4, try and hit some counter-attack, which I don't, apart from Ward-Prowse, I don't think they have the speed to hit some counter-attack, but they will be very good from set pieces. And I'm interested to see this season how we defend set pieces, because last year, as we saw, corners, free kicks, Lindelof was a liability and he cost us points last season. And also, back to our wan-bissaka, he is pulled very deep, tuck in beside Lindelof to back him up. So will Varane start next week? We shall see. Obviously, you expect to win, but all the games we have, the first 6 games are winnable. They are. And we've said 1,000 times on every show on a preseason, we got hit the ground running. Today is going to provide great momentum. But 2 years ago, we beat Chelsea 4-0 in the opening game. The fan base were losing their minds. Now, that wasn't a 4-0 win. Today, we were head and shoulders above Leeds. It was, you know, visually and on paper, what we saw, it was a 5-1 victory. But I'm not going to lose one of myself. I think Southampton next week is going to provide a much sterner test. I think Sancho has to start ahead of Dan James. Dan James today, apart from that tackle that he pulled, I think in the 3rd minute, with Messier threw the ball to midfield, Dan James put it the sliding tackle. Apart from that today, Dan James, for me, was MIA. Some members of our fan base would probably say he tracked back. That's bullshit. Sancho has to start. And I would not be adverse to taking Fred out of that team and putting Matic in beside McTominay. That's just for me.
Yeah, I think those are some solid changes. Alex, would you agree? Is there anything you do differently?
I was thinking of bringing Martial in as the striker. Not that Greenwood played badly, but I'm still keeping Greenwood in. So the front three of Sancho, Martial, Greenwood, and then move Pogba back into the midfield, and we'll try out and see if this 4-3-3 can actually work. Because I mean, Southampton, they've sold so many key players that you pretty much, obviously, touch wood, you're not going to get an easier game, so to speak, like early on in the season to be able to try and see if this 4-3-3 will work. So then I tried to bring Matic back in, so drop both McTominay and Fred. So then you have Pogba, Matic, BRUNO.
Yeah. Jordan, you feeling the same thing?
Yeah, I agree with Alex. I fear for Southampton this season. I think they could be in a real spot of bother. It's the second game, so we're catching them early. If we're going to try something, that's the game to try it. I don't feel you need two defensive-minded midfielders in there. I'd put Matic in there to sit and cover the back four and just be a little bit more expansive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think if we have Varane in for that game, obviously we're not sure, but if we have Varane in for that game, we're going to dominate the ball anyway, but obviously we'll be playing a much higher line with Varane, and I think being able to get Pogba and BRUNO in the midfield, and then you have like three of your attacking players, I think would be, ideal situation, best case scenario. Obviously, I just mentioned Varane there. The announcement happened before the game, and it was sort of like, there was rumblings that the deal had been signed, and so people assumed there was going to be something happening before the game, and it did happen. He obviously was revealed in front of the fans. He came out with the shirt. He's wearing number 19, which obviously some people are not too happy about, but nevertheless, at least he's finally going to be playing for us. He went and he took a little selfie, went and said hi to Rio Ferdinand and whatnot. What does Varane do for us now moving forward? What are you excited about when it comes to Varane slotting into the team? Obviously, Jordan, you mentioned how Lindelof was saved by McTominay early in the game. I do remember that. He was never getting to that header. So, he was never... and the thing is, when they showed the replay, you could see on Lindelof's face here, he was sort of like... he knew, you could see in his face, he knew that he had just been saved, right? But what are you looking forward to in terms of Varane coming in, Jordan?
You're so right. He was a massive sigh of relief. That partnership, that telepathic partnership between him and Maguire, I think that's what we're missing at the back. And I think people forget, because we talk about defense and bringing in, a better defender, but it's the domino effect of what that has to our attack. People then naturally will go forward and not so much worry about having to get back. So for me, that's the thing. I think you get the centre-back partnership right, it then knocks onto the midfield, which then knocks on to creating more chances for the number 9.
Alex, would you agree? Are you feeling the same kind of vibes?
Yeah, spot on. But the main thing I'm looking forward to is the amount of disrespect someone that has won 4 Champions Leagues, a World Cup has received, like getting compared to the likes of Ben White, which we all saw how apparently world-class England's 6th choice centre-back is. And that is really putting it mildly. He got in, just literally scraped into England's team at the Euros, like by the skin of his teeth. And you have people on TalkSport like Sean Wright-Phillips and stuff saying like, oh yeah, I think Ben White is a better centre-back or a better signing than Raphael Varane. It just makes the English media look just... it's just so embarrassing being English with stuff like this, that how we must look to the outside world. We're bringing in now a centre-back that has literally won every single thing there is to win in the game. Like, in terms of centre-backs and trophies won, what probably Sergio Ramos is like the only centre-back out there at the moment that's won more in Europe that's still playing at the moment for it as a defender that I can think of at the top of my head, at least with the very highest honours. And he's getting compared to likes of Ben White. Let them talk. We're going to see like Maguire, Shaw, wan-bissaka, Varane. That is just up there with every defence in Europe. So I absolutely can't wait to see him play for us.
Yeah, Simbad in the chat said, look, defences win titles. I'm sure you'd agree, Jay. What are you looking forward to with Varane coming in now?
Okay, well, to the aforementioned English radio show Talk Shite, any football pundit that espouses the virtues of Ben White over a World Cup winner, Varane has been to 14 cup finals and won 14. So I think that in itself is a stat that should sit with you about Varane and what it brings to the side. And back to what Jordan rightly said, I think having a proper centre-back beside Harry Maguire, that allows Harry Maguire, I've slagged him off many times in the show, but Harry Maguire loves taking the ball from the back four, bombing forward and looking for a pass. But very often, when he bombs forward, looks for a pass, there's no pass on. And then Harry has to play a 5-yard ball when he's looking for a through ball. So Harry now knows he can bomb forward, knowing if I lose possession, well, Varane's behind me, he's going to mop up. Varane brings to the side what a fit Eric Bailly should have brought. That's defensive stability at the back. And Varane obviously covers up for the lack of pace that Maguire has. But I'm most looking forward to seeing is the attacking threat Varane will give us from corner kicks. I'd love to know the stats. If anybody watching in the free chat knows how many goals have we scored from corners over the last 2 seasons, I'd love to know, because Varane, I think his attacking threat from set pieces and corners reaching the side. And secondly, no longer will wan-bissaka have to tuck in deep on the right hand side to protect Varane, because Varane doesn't need protection. Thirdly, then, what we've all been saying, it finally breaks up the McFred partnership. No longer does Solskjaer have to play the Buster Sofa midfield pivot on front of England's best centre back plus a World Cup winner. It's not necessary. So the Varane come into the side, let Solskjaer go back and play the 4-3-3 tactics that he got the job originally on.
Do you know, just to quickly jump in on something Jetty said as well, is what I wonder is, like, when you watch Maguire for England from set pieces, because John Stones as well is like really good at heading in set pieces, and Maguire seems to be so much better attacking set pieces for England than United, because I feel like United, everyone just knows, okay, they're going to try to hit it into Maguire. So I wonder, now that we have multiple threats, if Maguire will as well, on top of Varane scoring goals from set pieces, if Maguire will then score more as well, because they know that we can hit it to multiple people. We're not just going to focus in on Maguire. And it was a similar thing that happened when we had Fellaini. You just know if we had a set piece that they're always going to hit it into Fellaini, and now we have the same thing with Maguire. So I really think that will actually think, because you have 2 really big centre backs that can both rise up and they're both capable of scoring goals and they're both so good in the air. So I think that will make us a lot more dangerous from set pieces.
Yeah, I think just having him as a notable threat is also key. So reason is, like I said earlier, it's why I think McTominay gets a lot of favour as well, because he is sort of the second best aerial presence we have, right? When Maguire and Lindelof start. Obviously, right, I've seen people saying, Lindelof is very good at long balls and whatnot, and we might miss that. Varane can do that as well. I think a lot of people might not know Varane's game. Like, Varane can do everything Lindelof can do, but better, and he's got all the experience in the world. And I think, he just improves our team, significantly. The defense is obviously something to look forward to. Jay, you sort of said something that I want to talk about a bit. Varane coming in to you, that breaks up McFred and McFred. I was going to say McFred and McTominay. Fred and McTominay, McFred. What if that doesn't happen? I'm just putting out there. What if that doesn't necessarily happen and it doesn't necessarily go that way? How do you sort of feel about that moving forward if we keep McFred? Because I think that would be so difficult, because once again, fitting in all of our best players becomes infinitely harder if you play McFred. Because Pogba needs to play, but then we have so many attacking players that needs to play. What do you think about the possibility of McFred maybe not being broken up?
That's a great question, Levin, and I'd love to see the comments in the free chat regarding it. If Solskjaer continues to play McFred with, I would argue, a world-class back 4 behind them, it shows the lack of courage and my own phrase, particular fortitude on behalf of Solskjaer. And then it also begs the question then, if he plays McFred, where does Pogba fit in? Is Pogba then shoehorned out on the left the entire season when you have Mason Greenwood can play on the right, he can play a striker. Marcel can play left or striker, and of course Sancho can play left or right. So I think it will upset the balance of that side. Now, obviously, we're not going to see in 2 games' time McFred broken up, Varane in. It may take 6, 7, 8 games for the fluidity of the formation to come to fruition. So I'm not going to lose my mind, say mid-September, I'm still seeing McFred, Varane's behind them. But come Christmas, guys, if we're still seeing that 4-2-3-1 formation, even with Varane there, McFred playing week in, week out, then there's a case behind by Solskjaer and his contradictions and how confident he is as a manager tactically.
Jordan, would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think it's on Ollie's head beard if he still plays them in front of him. I think Jay's point about the finals and defense wins you titles. It's the mindset. You look at that Europa League final. You've got someone like Varane who's been there before and done it before. There's things he can say to those players around him to get us over that line, to give us that extra 10% and get us to win. Because so we're in semi-finals, we're in finals, and we just can't quite cross the line. It's those 2 or 3 winners, a winning mentality that will help us get us across that line. But you're right. If he starts McTominay and Fred in front of Maguire and Varane, then it's really disappointing with the attacking players that we've now got to Ollie's disposal.
Alex, McFred.
Yeah, I feel like they do still have a role to play in certain games. Like if we were to go against like a Man City or a Liverpool, I still probably would rather have, and I guess it is negative to say it, but like rather have them than having that maybe like Pogba, Matic, Bruno thing. Just simply because like the energy that they offer in like games that teams are that we probably won't have most of the ball and stuff. But how many teams can do that against us, realistically speaking? Chelsea, Man City, Liverpool, that's pretty much it. And then obviously Champions League games. So aside from that, when you're against like the lesser teams 100%, then I don't want them playing. And they do offer quite a lot from a defensive standpoint, but I just find like when they're on the ball, like the passing range just isn't there. Like McTominay obviously is actually a goal threat, and then we saw Fred score today, but obviously he hasn't scored that many. But it's just like when I see like you kind of forget like the difference a good midfielder can make when you watch them for so many games. And then like I said about Matic, when Matic comes in the team and I see the passes he sprays across the field compared to them two, it's like oh god, we can actually do so much better than this. And that just shows if we actually get, which is obviously not going to happen this transfer window, but if we were to manage to get like say a prime Matic or a prime Carrick into this team, I truly think that we can challenge for every single honour.
Yeah, I think some people in chat were saying that after their game, Ollie essentially confirmed that there weren't going to be any further signings, which is obviously a bit disappointing. Obviously, maybe I'm wrong about that, but I know quite a few people saying it, and obviously he did do an interview with BT after, so we'll sort of have to see what happens. As much as we're sitting here saying, look, if McTominay and Fred continue to play in the midfield, we're not going to be too happy. I do want to talk about the decisions he did make today and the actual, here now of what we saw. I think there's been a lot of concern about, players not returning and players not being ready for the very start of the season. Obviously, Varane, that situation, Cavani having an extended break, and even Sancho, right, not necessarily being ready to start straight away. But I think he was ill or whatnot. The decisions he made today, he got it right. We all admitted that, there was some, skepticism before the game. What impressed you the most? What do you think was the most impressive sort of decision he made? Anything that you noticed tactically that was a bit different, that sort of made you think, hey, look, as much as it is just one game, if we do more of this, like we're gonna be the team we all know we can be. I see you looking on Alex. You look like you maybe have something in mind.
I was just trying to think of the answer, but then I thought one thing that was actually really brave that eventually did pay dividends, but it's a big call really to put Mason Greenwood up front in over Martial. Obviously Martial has been out for so long, and I think Martial does have a massive part to play this season, and I think it wouldn't surprise me if he came in against Southampton. But obviously we saw him start against Everton, and we put Mason on the right. But to put a 19-year-old up front, first game back against one of your biggest rivals, and then obviously Mason paid that back. And anyone that watches United know how talented he is. Everyone that watches United stand know how much of a massive fan I am of his. But that is still a massive call to put a 19-year-old in such a big game when you don't have the likes of Rashford next to him supporting him. You don't have Sancho yet coming straight in. That was a big ask, really, when you think about it. Obviously, we have Bruno that he can fall back on. He has Pogba that he can fall back on. But we did, like they said on that thing with Cavani not being here and Rashford not being here, we missed 30-something goals. So, in the sense of what they scored last season, because Cavani got 17 and Rash got 23, I think, off the top of my head. So that is a massive amount of goals to miss out. And then to trust then Mason Greenwood at 19 years old to play up front on his own. And boy, did he pay dividends. Like we've already touched on, he was absolutely brilliant today. So that was, I think, a massive call by Ollie and something that he has to get credit for.
Yeah, he's got 30 goals in all comps, by the way, Greenwood. And he's still a teenager. Still a teenager, by the way.
People think as well, like, I know I always hype him up, but he broke Wayne Rooney's Premier League record as a teenager. And think Rooney was with us since 18. And think Rooney is like pretty much the best teenager the Premier League's ever seen. If you think about it, like from when he was burst onto the scene at 16 years old, I don't think it's that controversial to say. And Greenwood's beating his goal record as a teenager. So,
and look, everyone's been saying Cavani leaving at the end of the season. Who are we gonna buy? We might not need to buy. We gotta see. I'm getting a bit too excited. Look, Jay, they're calling you King Jay in chat. I think you got King Canton on your back. What do you make of?
I've actually got Robson 7 on the back.
Ooh, okay.
And any old school fan will know that Robson was the original Captain Marvel. So it's Robson 7. I don't want to mirror what Alex said, even though I agree with everything he said about Mason Greenwood. I do agree. So I got to pick somebody different. Okay. I like today that Solskjaer told Pogba, okay, you're out on the left, but I don't want shoehorned in the left winger role because I don't want you running at the fullback. So to allow Pogba license to drift into midfield, literally at will. I felt that overloaded the Leeds midfield. It happened many, many times in midfield. When Pogba drifted in, we had a 3v2. And the Leeds midfield, very physical guys, almost ready to put a foot in, massive work rate. But Pogba, who he's been slagged off many times for his work rate, but when he actually went into the midfield, he did get stuck in a lot. And I would give him credit for that. And let's be fair, he did his job. He got 4 assists, so hats off to Paul Pogba today. And hats off to Ole for giving Pogba the freedom to do his thing.
You just reminded me about something because you're right. The overloads in the midfield were really good. Like it was one of the things I think we did so well, especially with just how Leeds man marking being dragged out of position. I remember staying right when I saw the lineups. They played Click and Rodrigo as their 2, right? And those were the 2 that were dealing with McFred. And I remember saying to people on Mark's stream, look, last time it was Click and Rodrigo against McTominay and Fred. McTominay and Fred dominated them. That's what I'm saying. And what did we say at halftime? Bielsa knew it weren't working. He subbed off Rodrigo, brought Dallas back in. I'm not saying I'm a tactical genius. I'm not saying that. But, I am sort of saying that. Jordan, what was the thing that sort of was the most surprising thing to you? The one thing Ole sort of did today that really impressed you?
I think again, I don't want to pick the same point as someone else, but I think Alex hit the nail on the head to fill Greenwood with the confidence to go out there, lead the line in front of full Old Trafford at that age shows us where the future's at for Mason Greenwood. And you're right, like you said, us as United fans, we know how much promise there is. And I think, with the whole Kane thing and Haaland and whatnot, a lot of us United fans are like, well, hang about, we think Greenwood's the future. We don't want to stifle Greenwood's development. Cavani staying on, and I just seen, like I said, about the movement, a lot of that, you can just see that he's picking that up from Cavani. You're picking that up from an experienced striker, that kind of movement. And I just thought he played really, really well. And you're right, he won't get the headlines because, he didn't get the assists or the hat-trick or whatnot. But us as United fans who, watch us week in, week out, that for us is the future there. Mason Greenwood at number 9. Yeah,
100%. I wanted to bring this up. Jazzy, supporting the channel, and he said not popular, but Luke had an average game. What I do want to say about Luke Shaw, right, is even to be fair, an average game in this game isn't like by any means any sort of an issue. What I would say is, to me, even with how good the performance was as a whole, watching this game a lot of the time, it did still feel like, this is first game of the season. There were a lot of sloppy touches. There was times when players didn't track back. There were times when Luke Shaw wouldn't track back as quick. There was times where Fred wouldn't track back as quick. I think people need to remember as well, as much as this was a brilliant performance, this is just the beginning, right? I think you can very much, look at what Luke Shaw's done over the past year. And even in this game, going forward, there were times when he was brilliant. Just because it didn't result in an assist or a goal doesn't mean he wasn't.
I don't know about you guys, but I strongly disagree with that. I thought he had a decent game. I mean, obviously Pogba, Bruno, Mason and stuff were better, but I still thought Luke Shaw had a good game. And like when he got on the ball, you could see the threat he offered. Obviously, it didn't come off. But he obviously had that one shot that like nearly went in and like stuff like that. And like anyone that watched, you saw I know I keep bringing it back to England, but when he was like, there was all the conversations about, is it going to be Trippier or is it going to be Chilwell? Then Luke Shaw came in after that first Croatia game, and Luke Shaw was just absolutely out of this world. And then I thought, against Everton, he'd been out. That was his first game for United in the whole preseason. He was great. And then I thought today, I don't think he was average at all. I don't know what you guys think.
Yeah, I just want to pick up on that point. I don't know what game that gentleman was watching, but Luke Shaw, his attacking threat last season was when he developed the synergy with Marcus Rashford on the left. When Luke Shaw bombed forward on the left, Marcus Rashford tucked in and covered them. So today, with Pogba drifting in and out to midfield and little bits on the left, Luke Shaw, for me, wasn't given license by Solskjaer to bomb forward as much. So I think if you're watching a game, you have to know some element of tactics. So to say Luke Shaw didn't play well, I reckon he was told by the manager, don't bomb forward as much as you can because Pogba's going to drift in and out. And as you said there, 11, just because you can get a goal assist doesn't mean he played well. And any player today, like I think today, the average rating, bar one Welshman, sorry Jordan, is probably 7 for the players. So that comment from that gentleman, thanks for super chat, but I don't agree with you.
Nah, I feel you on that. I do feel you on that.
Oi, let's leave the Welsh alone, man.
I don't even think as well. Dan James didn't play that bad. Come on, if the lowest grade was a 7, Dan James played like a 6. He wasn't that bad.
So 6 is average.
That would be an average score. Yeah, you're right. Finally, shout out Uncle Arnold as well, coming in with some support as well. Look, I'm excited. You know, I'm seeing a lot of people in the chat talking about Donny, and obviously, I think with how brilliant of a result it is, I do always feel bad, right? Because I feel like we can have like the best game ever. Donny won't play, and it's always like, man, I feel bad for Donny, man. I want to see Donny. You know, what do you guys think is the season going to look like for Donny van der Beek? What do you think is his role as a part of the squad? And do you really think he has the future that many of us, you know, once thought he would have at the club at this stage? I'll start with you, Jordan.
I just want to give him a hug. I feel sorry for him. I really do. Like, he's had a good preseason, but look, today was the right day for him to start McFred. That's what I would say. And what I said at the beginning is there will be McFred games, there will be Donny games, there'll be Matic games, there'll be Pogba games. It's about Ollie utilising that squad across all competitions and making sure that everybody is used at the right time. I think that is the key. So I think today, right decision. In 2 games' time, is it going to be the right decision? Probably not. So they're the type of games that, you want him to come in and he can speed the game up when he takes it from midfield into attack a lot better. He wants to get hold of the ball. He's pointing where he wants to make passes. If Matic is sat back protecting the back four, then Donny can be that player that interlinks things and speed things up. So I think it's on Ollie more than it's on Bruno, more than it's on Donny to realise what games is the right games to use him for. Squad rotation is key.
Jay, what do you think about Donny and his chances this season?
Look, no doubt Donny went off in the off-season, put on, I'd say, between 4 and 6 kilos of muscle mass. He's a much bigger, solid player. He hasn't lost any of his speed. He looked very well in pre-season. And I hate repeating what Smith has said, but Jordan did raise a very good point. The key is squad rotation. And that is something that we've all slagged off Solskjaer for, lack of squad rotation and in-game management. I think next week against Southampton, that is the kind of game where a player like Donny van der Beek has to start in. Neither of McTominay or Fred have the passing range in their locker to pass the ball effectively through two banks of 4 in a low block Southampton will offer. But both Matic and Donny can. But will Solskjaer see that? Again, we're just fans here. Obviously we're watching it through fans' eyes, but we're not professional managers. I start Donny next week, but it's on Solskjaer, not me or you guys.
Can I just cut in then quickly and say, do you then start? So you're thinking, I'm guessing, the Matic, Van der Beek midfield, and then what you'd have Pogba, Sancho, Greenwood up front.
Next week, yes, I'd love to see it. Love to see it next week.
That would actually be a decent team. I'd be happy with that.
So, Alex, Donny's place in the squad.
It's hard because I actually agree with like what Jay was just saying, that it necessarily, and what Jordan said as well, that it wasn't really the game for them. And like I think a lot of us were originally thinking that Matic probably would have started this game because he's obviously started so much in pre-season, but then obviously in hindsight, with how high energy Leeds are, it probably was the game for McTominay and Fred. So, yeah, Van der Beek, I do think that he showed towards the end of the season and a bit in pre-season that he is capable of playing for us, but I just don't think that Ollie rates him, and I don't think Ollie was the one that signed him. Like, I feel like with the signings we made last season, they just didn't seem like Ollie signings, because if you were to bring him, like you watch now with Varane, that clearly is an Ollie signing, and Sanchez is clearly an Ollie signing, that he is actually going to play them a lot. But it was like when Cavani first came in, I was thinking like, yeah, Cavani would actually be our first choice striker, but it took a long time for Cavani to be our first choice striker. So I feel like last season, like Ollie didn't really get the signings that he originally wanted. So with going into this season again with Van der Beek, obviously Cavani earned his way into the team, but because of the way, like the sort of player that Van der Beek is, I think Ollie signed him as a number 10, which I know a lot of people disagree with me, but I don't see him as a number 10 for United. And especially if you are playing that role for United, then your competition is Bruno Fernandes. So Bruno today in one game scored more than Van der Beek did in all of his chances last season. And that's not a knock on Van der Beek, but I'm just saying that's the sort of player that you're competing against. So I personally saw him as someone that played deeper and like sort of like played those more like those passes, but that works better in a 4-3-3. So if we are to play a 4-3-3 this season, he is going to get more chances. But then again, you're once again competing now in that 4-3-3 role with Pogba, who is just so good on the ball as well. So it's like, it's not to say Van der Beek isn't a good player, but when you're competing against literally two of the best midfielders in the world with Bruno and Pogba, it is really hard to get into the team. But you see with Man City that if you rotate your team, then you can't. That's how you challenge for all the titles. So I would be in favour of giving Van der Beek a lot more chances, but I personally don't see it, just purely because of how Ollie sees him, in my opinion.
When you started mentioning them not being Ollie signers, I thought Jordan was about to go off on one. It was like Beth was back here. I know she's at the game. I was thinking Jordan's about to go
I
off.
swear to you, I bit my tongue. I bit my tongue.
Do you think that they were his signings?
It's not that time.
Yeah, I don't even want to do this today. I don't want to do this today.
I haven't even heard that. What do you think he did sign them?
I'm not getting into it. I'm saving it for another day.
Yeah, okay.
Listen, today's about good vibes. We've had a big week. It's the first day of the season. Listen, let Ollie live. This is it.
Josh Leonard coming in with a super chat saying, "Relax, guys. Pogba plays left mid even when he starts left wing. He played central as part of the midfield most of the game today." Look, we did talk about that. I'm not sure when you tuned into the show, Josh, but yeah, we talked about that very much. Where I think if you actually go back, whatever websites you guys use to follow football, I'm sure if you look at his average position today, a lot of it will be in that left half space near the sort of central areas of the pitch. Look, when it comes to Donny, sort of my thoughts, I do want to just address one thing, because it's something I always see when Donny's name comes up, and it triggers the hell out of me as someone who watched Donny at Ajax. People don't understand. Donny came up through Ajax's academy. They have a philosophy that they call total football. They train players to play in every position on the pitch. Donny coming up through Ajax would have played in almost every single position. When you look at Donny's last season and his best seasons at Ajax, he played as a number 10, a number 8, and he played in a pivot. He played all of them. At his best, I'm giving you just factually, when they were in the Champions League, everything, at his best, he was a number 10. That doesn't mean he's only a number 10, though. But for people who go, he's not a number 10, he's not a number 8, he's not a number 6. No, he can do all of those roles.
10, do you think he creates enough chances?
No, I don't think in United squad and how he fits in the squad, he's a number 10. I don't think that, because once again, his competition is Bruno, and what he offers at number 10 compared to what Bruno offers, because they are different types of number 10s, it's not even on the same level. I'd much rather have Bruno there every day of the week. I do think Van der Beek can be a great number 8 for us, or number 6. I think in that pivot, he's shown that. I think that's a part of the reason why he bulked up, right? Because we always, hear talks about how the midfield in the Premier League is so physical, and I think he would have understood that. And I think, he would have done that for himself to try and, at least be able to handle that role a lot better. But it just all depends on what Ollie will do. Like Jay says, right? At the end of the day, we can't, as much as we might want to see him get football, and even if you don't want to see him get football, it all just depends on what Ollie does. But I think the big, sort of interesting thing is, what actually do we look like moving forward? Because you know, you can very much see how this game against Leeds is like a one-off game. I think Mark was calling that a lot, a one-off game. And I think it very much is that. I think whenever you play Leeds, you almost do pick a team to play Leeds because they are just so different to every team in the league. Moving forward, though, the starting lineup, we talked about what we wanted to see potentially changed. I do, you know, I know there was the match ratings that you can find on the United Sun website. I do want to go around and ask you guys all what you thought of every player and give a number. I know, Jay, you sort of said everybody was at least a 7. Except for one certain Welshman. But we'll start off at the at the top or at the bottom? Where do we start today? We'll start off at the top. We'll start with Greenwood up front at number 9. I personally thought I'd give him an 8 out of 10. An 8 out of 10. Jordan.
Who? Sorry.
Greenwood.
Greenwood. Yeah, at least an 8. I thought he was. You got to remember, it's his age in front of those fans to handle that pressure, that movement, playing against grown men. Yeah, at least an 8, I would say.
Alex,
as I'm not allowed to use half marks, yeah, 8 spot
on. Jay,
I can't disagree with an 8 out of 10. Everyone has alluded to the point that his movement now vis-a-vis a year ago after working with Cavani has come on leaps and bounds. And let's just see, guys, come May, we may not even need to look at buying a striker because Greenwood could be the heir apparent to Cavani. Who knows? So 8 out of 10, solid.
Let us know in the chat what you guys thought Greenwood was out of 10. I think we'll see a lot of 8s, whatnot. Moving now over to the Welshman himself, Dan James. Oh, man. I really hope the chat generous to Dan James, but I thought Dan James.
Take it easy.
I thought Dan James was. I thought it was a 6 out of 10. It was a very Dan James performance. Quality on the ball wasn't necessarily there, but I think he did sort of some of the things you would expect him to do, make runs. You could see where we were trying to exploit that, right? Like the first half at the beginning, we were constantly trying to play balls over the top to Dan James, and it just didn't really work out. He kept getting offside, which doesn't help his argument. But I'd say 6 out of 10. Jordan, your fellow Welshman.
Oh, why'd you have to mention the Welsh word? I can't. Oh, man. We're Welsh. We have to stick together. I should be giving him a 9. But look, there's levels to it. And I think where we're at and where we want to be, I think players like Dan James's numbers, days are numbered, sorry. I don't feel like he offers us enough. If he can't go and dominate a game against a team like Leeds, which is so open and expansive, then what games is he gonna, dominate? So for me, 6 because we won. If we hadn't won, it'd be a lot lower because I really don't feel he offered us enough today.
Okay, fair. I think that's fair analysis. I think, yeah, for the most part, he was very lucky that we scored a lot of goals. I think people would have looked at some of the chances he potentially could have had and would have been a bit frustrated. Alex.
Yeah, the way I rate it as well is I seem to base it on how that player actually plays. So if it was like Rashford, Martial, Greenwood playing out wide and putting that performance, I'd give them lower than I'd give Dan James because obviously their ceiling is much higher. But I think Jordan was spot on with saying that with if you can't do it against a team like Leeds, it is quite worrying because Leeds is really when you look across the whole Premier League, Leeds is literally Dan James' best team he can play against. You will get that sort of space against a team like City or something, but obviously City have a higher caliber of player. So yeah, I'm going to give him a 6. But like I said, if it was someone who I rate higher talent wise, I would give him lower than a 6. But for Dan James, that was a 6.
Jay.
I know a lot of people watching. How do you rate Dan's ability to run around and track back? I don't. He's playing Leeds. He's never going to get more wide open space to exploit. His passing was sloppy, crossing non-existent. 5 out of 10.
Okay, fair enough. Do you know what I do just sort of I've noticed, right, about when people are talking about Dan James and McFred in this game? For the most part, a lot of people will have come to the conclusion, if there's going to be any game you're going to play them, it would be this game, which is why, I find it so funny, because I was saying this at the start of the match, but I find it so funny that people, couldn't see that before, right? There was a lot of frustration, but it's understandable. It's understandable. If we move across centrally to that number 10 position, the man himself, the Portuguese Magnifico, Bruno Fernandes. For me, it's a 10. 10 out of 10. It's a 10 out of 10 for me. Jay, what are you thinking?
I've never given a 10 on any show, but today, any man gets a hat-trick, and the goals were taken with aplomb. Like, come on, it's got to be 10.
That last one. Oh, my goodness, that last one.
Yeah, top drawer.
Alex?
I don't think I've given a 10 either. As I'm thinking myself about getting the 4 assists and stuff, I can't give like 2 10s, but he does really have to get a 10 for a hat-trick against one of our biggest rivals in opening game of the season. Yeah, 10.
Jordan?
Yeah. Look, if that's not a 10, then what is a 10? He scored a hat-trick. They weren't tap-ins. They weren't deflections. There was no controversy. There was no penalties. Well. All open play. So for me, it's a straight 10. Yeah, straight 10 for the big man, Bruno.
Bruno created the most chances in open play last season of any player in the Premier League. And I think this season he's going to try to do that again and also score the most goals of any player in open play. But if he was to do that, that would be magnificent. I don't know about you guys. Alex, you said you don't want to give out 2 10s. I don't care. Pogba, 10. I'm saying it. Pogba and Bruno, to me, were both 10 out of 10. And, like, you just look at it. Like, we actually have 2 of the 3 best midfielders in the Premier League. Like, in those 2. Like, it's kind of crazy. The only other person on their level in the Premier League is KDB. 10 out of 10 for me. Jay, are you going to be generous? Is it 2 10s for the... You've never given a 10, but are you now going to give 2 10s in one show?
No, Levin and everybody watching, I can't give 2 10s in good conscience. And I never thought I'd come on a show and say, Paul Pogba, you got a 9. Well done, mate.
Wow.
For Jay giving Pogba a 9 is like the equivalent of an 11, though. So.
Yeah, it is.
Fair play. You know what? I'll take that. I'll actually take that then. Alex, what are you giving him?
You can't get 4 assists like the way he did it. They weren't even like set piece assists. They were, again, open play assists. So he has to get a 10 again.
Jordan, come on.
I think we saw the best and worst of Paul Pogba in the goal we conceded. I think on his day, we know he's one of the best players in the world, but it's, on his day, how many days does he have that? For me, it's a 9. It's a 9. Bruno was a 10. I think he was a 9. Pogba.
I don't. You guys are sounding like Graham Souness to me. Like what? I saw, shout out to James on Twitter. James, he posted like a picture of Souness, right? And he was just like, "Well, Pogba, Man United scored 5 goals and Pogba only had 4 assists. You got to ask yourself, why didn't he have 5 assists?" So it just cracked me up. Absolutely.
He's just doing his job, Levin. He's just doing his job.
He is just doing his job. Yeah, that is his job. Look. Back down to the pivot now. Back down to the pivot. I think McTominay had a good game. I think for what you'd want him to do in this game, I think he sort of did what you'd expect him to do. I would have liked to see him be a bit more effective from set pieces, because I think that's where he was a big threat for us as well coming into this game. I'll give him a... I wanted to give him a 7, but I am leaning towards giving him an 8, because I do think he was really important for us in that first half specifically. So I'm going to give him an 8. Jordan, would you agree?
Who was that, sorry?
Scott McTominay, McSauce.
I thought he played really well, but again, similar to the Dan James things, if you can't play well against Leeds, who can you play well against? I thought his best game last season was against Leeds, and day one, I thought he, again, really, really good. Correct decision from Ollie to start him again. So for me, yeah, 8 seems fair.
Alex?
I'm going to give him a 7. I thought he was brilliant in the first half, and then I thought he faded a bit in the second half. But overall, it was a really good performance. So, yeah, 7.
Jay?
Yeah, I give him a solid 7. He did what he was asked to by Solskjaer. I wouldn't have started him, but that's why I'm not the manager. So, solid 7.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Moving on to Fred now. I think Fred was very much pedestrian to me for a lot of that game. But then again, getting that goal is just like it was a bit humorous to me, like seeing Fred score the goal, and it wasn't even like a scrappy goal. Like, it was a brilliant finish from Fred. To be fair, you know what? In a good mood, I'll give him a 7. I'll give him a 7. I think he did his best Matic impersonation it wasn't amazing, but you know, he tried to be the sort of holding midfielder for the most part. He sat a lot deeper than McTominay did this game. So I'd give Fred a 7. Jay, Fred.
Fred, for me, was on a 5 until he scored. I tweeted during the game, you know, it's kind of tits up for Leeds when even Fred scores. So he gets a 6 for scoring.
All right, then. 6 ain't too bad. 6 ain't too bad. Alex?
I was going to give him a 6 as well because I would agree with Jay, yeah, that his overall play wasn't that good, but then obviously the goal boosted him up. And I think if you give him McTominay a 7, then McTominay was comfortably better than Fred, I think. So 6 for Fred.
And Jordan?
Fred activated ghost mode until his goal. Talk about holding midfielder. He couldn't hold a cup of water. He's got no positional sense to be a CDM. He was a 5 just because he turned up, but because he scored, I'll give him a 6.
You know what's mad, yeah? I don't know if you guys remember it. There was a specific possession where Fred just didn't track back. I don't know if he got hurt or something, but he just didn't track back. And you literally can just see BRUNO go and then start running back into Fred's position. And I was like, it was so funny to me. I was like, yeah, pretty funny. Yeah. Regardless, we'll move on now to the defense. I want to go with wan-bissaka the Spider. It was weird because I don't know how to feel about wan-bissaka this game. I think his passing looked a lot better. He made a couple more runs. Still not where I want him to be, but first game of the season, I think he did all right. You know, even when they moved Raphinha over to the left, you know, literally Luke Shaw passed Raphinha from his back pocket and just threw him into wan-bissaka's back pocket as well. So I'd actually give wan-bissaka a 7. I'd give him a 7. Jordan?
Wan-bissaka, yeah, didn't do anything wrong. Didn't set the world alight going forward, but was solid. 7 for me.
Alex?
Like I said, I judge people by like the talent I know they have. So for me, as a wan-bissaka performance, I'd give him a 6 just because I know he's capable of playing a lot better than that.
I think that's fair. Jay?
I give him a solid 7. Defensively, he didn't put a foot wrong. I'm looking forward to see how he develops a synergy with Jadon Sancho as the season goes on. And then I think we'll see the best from wan-bissaka.
Okay, and I'm moving across. I'll go to the other fullback position. Luke Shaw. I think Luke Shaw was a 7. I think there were times when going forward he looked like, you know, he looked like Luke Shaw, the Luke Shaw we've been used to seeing for the past year. We talked about him a bit earlier, so I won't get into it too much. I'll give him a 7. I think it was all right. He had a good game and a good overall team performance. Jay?
Yeah, I mirror that. He did what he had to do. Solid 7.
Alex?
I'd say scraped a 7 for me because, like I said, in terms of like Luke Shaw performances, he is capable of again, and that's a good thing anyway with both him and wan-bissaka. They're both capable of playing infinitely better. But yeah, for sure, what he's capable of is 7. Jordan?
Yeah, agree. 7 for sure. We know Shaw is capable of putting in 9s most weeks, but for me, he was a bit off that. So yeah, 7.
That's strictly come dancing. 7. Maguire, I'd give Maguire a 7 as well. I don't know. Like Maguire, there were times. You know what? Yeah, Leeds did try and abuse Maguire in the first half a bit. They kept trying to lob balls over the back of him whenever Luke Shaw would go forward, which is maybe something to watch out for in future games. But he sort of dealt with it well. I'd give Maguire a 7. Jordan, what would you give Maguire?
Yeah, because we've won, I'd leave it at a 7. I don't think they had a lot to do. I don't think that, you know, he was at fault for the goal. 7. Yeah.
Alex, you agree?
I'm giving Maguire an 8 just purely because I think in terms of what I've given the other defenders, I thought he was the best out of the bunch. Along with actually, I don't think Lindelof played well. We'll get to Lindelof, but I think Maguire was quite good. So as we're not allowed to give half ones, I'll give Maguire an 8.
And Jay?
I give Maguire a 7. I've already seen 3 replays of the Luke Ayling shot. I thought, for my third view of it, I thought Maguire should have charged down that ball and taken it in the face. That's just me.
Look, we at least know what Jay would do. I honestly, wholeheartedly, I believe you would have done that. So I can appreciate that. I can appreciate that analysis. Lindelof, all that's in my mind is that Lindelof moment from when like McTominay saved him. But I think that's unfair for me to just remember that. I don't think he was bad. I think he was just okay. I'd give Lindelof a 6 if I'm giving Maguire a 7. Jay?
For me, he was on a 6 until he played the assist for Bruno. Just based on the Bruno assist, he gets a 7 for the assist. Just based on that.
Fair enough. I think that's fair enough. I did actually forget about that. I did forget he got the assist. Jordan, would you agree?
Yeah, I agree. That assist notched him up from a 6 to a 7 for me as well. So yeah, but that 8th minute thing with with McTominay did stick in my mind. But the assist has bailed him out. Yeah,
Alex.
It was going to be a 7 for me as well. There was that tweet going around, I think it was yesterday, I can't remember if it was about Laporte or Van Dijk being like, oh yeah, no centre-back in the league can play passes like this. And I replied to it being like, Lindelof plays like 4 of these passes every single game. So it was good that I only had to wait 24 hours for him to then get an assist by playing a pass exactly like that to be proven right. So yeah,
that's
7.
good. That's good. And now to the goalkeeper, David De Gea. Didn't really have much to do. I'm trying to remember what happened on the Luke Haylen shot. What would you guys give him? We'll start with you, Jay.
De Gea, mi portero, for me, is number 1. Started 7, pull off 2 decent saves, and I don't think he could do much about the Luke Haylen shot. It's a top drawer shot. As I said, Maguire should take it in the face.
Yeah, fair enough. I keep visually imagining just you getting smacked in the face with the ball on that shot. Alex?
I'm going to give him a 6. I don't think he did anything bad, but he didn't really have much to do. So, yeah, 6.
And Jordan?
Yeah, 6. Nothing he could have done about the goal. Didn't really have much else to do. However, I thought it was a great sight to see him in the sticks at full Old Trafford again.
Mm-hmm.
Guys,
just looks the part, doesn't he? Just looks the man.
I'm sorry, we have a special guest joining the show. Can you believe it? The one and only. Oh my God, the one and only Van Cam himself. What are you saying, Kevin? You at the game today?
I was, mate. I've literally just got through the door to get home. I'm just recovering, just about got my voice back. And I thought, I noticed the link, so I thought I'll try and check in just to see if I can give my 2 pennants really, really quickly, like, mate. So
no, go, bring it away. I'm looking forward to it. Go on.
Oh, mate, what an amazing experience that was at Old Trafford today. Just to be back, fans in the ground, proper emotional, man. You know, before just standing there, this is the one. Stone Roses comes on. The players walking out onto the pitch. It's just great to be part of that day, to be back in Old Trafford, 70-odd thousand fans. The atmosphere was everything you would have expected from a United Leeds game. But the added factor of the fact that we've not had fans in the ground, and what a performance. I mean, I was hopefully planned on leaving about 5 minutes before the end to get back to do this. And I just thought, I need to stay till full time to clap the boys off because they deserved it, every single one of them. Anyone that slags off Fernandes, it's like, just come on, man. Even the McTominay haters, and you all know I like McTominay, I thought he bossed that midfield today. There's just so many plus points, and obviously the news before it, which I'll watch the show back. Obviously, I'm sure you've touched on Varane, but the fact that United were able to do that before the game today just gives the fans and everyone a lift. And to be able to bring on Martial and Sancho in a game, we're talking strength in depth and that. I'm not getting too carried away, but listen, 5-1 against Leeds. Have a bit of that.
Whoa. Easy on the sheep noises. Leave the sheep out.
Leave the sheep to Jordan, of course. Look, we'll go around then on the manager, Ollie. What rating would you give him out of 10 before we wrap up here? Jordan, I'll start with you.
8 for Ollie. I thought he got it right. Put Leeds to the sword. Great start. Long may it continue.
Alex?
I'm going to give him a 9. Opening day of the season, considering how many key players, when you think about it, really we were missing. So, yeah, 9. And to get a result like that against a team that I was really worried about because they are statistically the fittest team in the league.
Jay, what are you going with? What, OGS?
A guy gave him a solid 8. He had the balls to play Mason up top by himself. And, he picked his midfield to counteract the power and pace of Leeds midfield. So a solid 8.
Yeah, fair enough. Kev?
I think I'd agree with Alex, mate. I'll go for a 9. I think he's... there would have been eyebrows raised before it, this McFred stuff and all that. Can't believe he's playing him. And, you know, it's worked today. And he was in a great position to be able to bring on Sancho and Martial, tactics-wise. Fantastic start to the season, man. 5-1. I think that equals Manchester United's best ever, is it, opening day result. And what more can you say? 5-1 against Leeds. Made up.
Yeah, honestly, you know, I've not ever really been Ollie's biggest fan, but I thought it was brilliant today. I'd give him a 9 out of 10. I think tactically he got it all right. Bringing on Sancho and Martial was great as well to get them some minutes in front of a crowd that was definitely eager to see them. It was brilliant. Guys, look, you know, the Premier League season's back. We're back with the fan forum. It's been a pleasure to have you all. Be sure to like the video if you've enjoyed. Comment down below. Who was your man of the match on the game? Look, as we speak, I believe Chelsea are playing. They're winning their game. Obviously, Man City are going to be playing tomorrow. Those are sort of our 2 biggest competitors this season. But, you know, we're going to best them. 21 loading. See you guys all later.